I'm going to go over a couple things here with you guys. It's going to be 4 main things. So I'm basically going to review some displays with you guys because I know a lot of us display things differently in the Cutco world. So I just want to make sure that there can be some congruence so that our customers aren't getting confused every time they're stepping or they're looking at a Cutco booth. Think of it like when you go to Starbucks. Every Starbucks is slightly different, but it's also very similar to each Starbucks. So the easier we can help our customers buy, the better. Second thing I'm going to talk about is just different ways to display the products. Less is more, classy, and clean as you go, and then how to cut less and sell more. But I want to start off with a challenge here. Okay, I'm going to give $5 to the person that can actually figure this out. So I'm going to tell a story. There was once a group of Brazilian businessmen who sent letters to the heads of top 10 U.S. retailers asking to come visit and learn how they did business. Most U.S. companies ignored the letters, and the few that had acknowledged the Brazilians said no. However, this gentleman said yes. Then this gentleman invited him over to his hometown to hang out. This gentleman actually ended up asking him a bunch of questions. Long story short, this story gets really good. This gentleman actually went to Brazil to visit the businessmen and actually got arrested in the process. What was he doing? Well, the cops thought he was a danger to society because they actually found him on his hands and knees measuring the amount of space a store had left in between the aisles. Sam Walton, you got it, buddy. Get your $5 here. Woo! Give him a round of applause. Woo! Good job, man. That's awesome. Yeah, you're welcome. So the reason why I wanted to bring that up, you guys, is because if Sam Walton, like one of the richest, back then, super wealthy man, is taking the time to measure and be humble about learning, about, displaying and setups, I mean, that guy knows something about setups, right? So I just want to go over some pictures here with you guys, and then we can talk more about it. So who has seen this picture before? It's pretty sick, right? This is a display from, I believe it's Cutco, Korea. And I mean, that just looks fly. Like, you would walk up there, you'd be like, dang, your knives are expensive, right? Which is kind of what we want, right? We want to attract the right people to our booths. So what I'm thinking here is that this is eventually where our setups will go. As our setups start to get better and better and better, more of us start investing in backdrops like this, display boards, just things to make our product look more high-end. Because the thing is, we're not just a set of knives, we're high-end cutlery, we're Cutco, right? I want to just make sure that all of us are in congruence with that in this message. So I just want to show you guys this picture. This is actually a display at our state fair. As you can see, the ultimate set is there at the very end. So this setup was good. However, you got to set up your booth. Write this down. Set up your booth to sell Cutco, right? You want to set up your booth to sell Cutco in a way that makes sense to your customer. So ask yourself that. How can I set up my booth in a way that makes sense to my customer? So once again, set up your booth to sell Cutco to your clients as quickly, as efficiently as possible. So who sets up the homemaker pieces on this side like this? Raise your hand. Great, awesome. So if you're not doing it, highly recommend it, because even if you want to sell them a galley, all you got to do is flip this fork over, and you just do that and be like, look, there's your starter set there. So make sure that, understand, how do people read? People read from what? Left to right. So my display is set up from left to their eyes to right? And it's set up from smallest to biggest, because if they come over here, what kind of knives do they like? Small knives. If they come over here, what kind of knives do they like? So that customer is telling me exactly what they want without them even knowing that yet, right? So be sure to pay attention to that. One key thing, here's like one of those secret little tips. If they walk up to this side of the booth right here, generally about 80% of the time, they're looking for a good set of knives and have never heard of Cutco. So a lot of times when they walk over here, they're looking to see what they don't have. Oh, I have this, but I don't have that, You've heard that. So now I want to show you the next picture because I want to see if you notice it. So notice how the ultimate set is on this side here. On this next picture, what's up, Frankie Frank? If you notice, the cookware is there and the ultimate set has been pushed down a little bit towards the middle, right? Where do we want our customers to come to? To the middle, so if you notice my display, this is designed so that the customer has to come here, right? so that the customer has to come here so if they want to pull knives out. My whole goal is to help the customer literally, because of the way it's set up, be standing right in front of me, right? If my setup's facing this way, what they can do is they can pull a knife out and run away that way. I don't want them to do that, right? So if I can keep it here so that they just stand there the whole time, perfect. So make sure you angle your stuff in a way that drives your people to where you want them to be. And there's a better picture of it there. So most people will pick up the pots and pans, they're like, that's cool. Then they walk over to the middle, they start pulling stuff out of the Ultimate set. Hey, are you familiar with Cutco? Boom, start selling them, right? So put your stuff in a way that helps you sell more. This is one of those ways. Same thing, here's another picture of the setup, a little bit closer. Forever Guarantee sheet. We've started putting the Cutco kitchen sheets out. That's, I think, part of the reason why we've sold some more Cutco kitchens, because people are being able to see that. So that just shows you some of the display. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I have this red spreader here. Why do you think I have this red spreader here? Business gifts, right? What's that? Yeah, that's right. So you want to make sure that you're promoting little things to your customers without them even knowing it yet, right? And this is one of those ways that you can promote it to them as well. So here's actually one of our pictures at this is an outdoor display, and then this is an indoor display at our state fair. So I just want to ask you guys a question. Who has heard of how quickly you make a first impression? Who's heard about that? Like everybody, right? It's like that, right? And I want to say, like, you know, that's why when we go out, right, we actually look super fly because not only do you want to grab the right type of attention and pique interest and attract, you know, the big thing, what I'm trying to get here is you want to attract the right type of customer that you want at your booth. Just remember that like attracts like. Now let me ask you a question. Do you want the people that are clean cut, nice shirt, nice shoes, and that like you're like, bro, they look money? Or do you want the person that, you know, it's like, yo, do you have something I could cut my like shoelace with because they need like a belt? I had a guy do that once. He bought a ciggy with steak knives, but still I was like, dude, that's pretty crazy. So just the big thing, guys, is that just like I said, you might set yours up differently. Just make sure your setup is congruent to your approach in a way that makes sense whenever you're introducing things to people and demonstrating things to them. So write that down. Make sure your setup is congruent with your approach. I understand some of you guys might use Jason's approach. Some of you guys might use Curtis's approach. I notice some people will set up like the ultimate pieces here. I coach with Curtis, so I set up my stuff the way Curtis would set it up, right? So make sure that whenever you're saying things to your customers, it's congruent to the way it's set up. Also, one thing that I want to say here, you guys, and really, really drive this down is make sure you keep your booth clean, tidy, and neat. The more respect you really give your display, the more people will respect the fact that these are high-end sets of cutlery and not just knife sets. So think about that for a moment, right? This, you know, if you have a Rolex on your wrist, right, it's not a watch. You call it either a Rolex or a timepiece. If you drive a luxury brand vehicle, you call it a Mercedes, a Lexus, BMW, etc. You don't just say it's a car. Does that make sense? So the reason why I bring this up is because it's very important that when you're talking about Cutco, you make sure that it's like a very high-end thing to the customer, right? Whenever people are buying Cutco, we got to make it an experience for them. So write that down. When people are buying Cutco, make it an experience for them. When I went to the store to buy that ring, it was a hell of an experience. I'll tell you that. But the big difference that I noticed from like high-end companies that sell high-end products and just normal products is high-end products give you an experience. Sir, would you like a water? Oh, yes. Mr. Rodriguez, would you like something? Sure, you know. It's like, cool, you know. So you get treated really, really well. So one thing that I would also say is get them boards. You see those boards up there? Totally get them. Who has ever had those customers that come up to the booth, they're like, I have this, I have this, I have this, and then they completely mess it up. It's terrible, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, now you're spending time and energy trying to fix it all again. So these boards actually help make your product look more high-end, as well as people will be like, actually, can I see that knife? And you're like, oh yes, absolutely, here, check it out. So it makes people want it more because guess what? People want what they can't, right? So the more we can make it like that for them, the better. One of the things that I would recommend though, like at that trade days, if you see to the left, outside, that's one of our trade days type of events. It's outdoors. I actually don't use display boards out there because I've noticed that at those type of events, people want to be like really touchy-feely, grab everything. And it actually worked against me one day where I didn't use the boards, where I did use the boards, I'm sorry. So if you're working, just feel out the event. That would be my recommendation to you. Feel out the event and see whether, like, if people really want to grab a lot of the stuff, or you're in like outside flea market type place, I wouldn't recommend using the boards. But I will tell you, get the boards, makes a big difference. So quick question for you guys. Who has ever worked with Curtis here? A few of you guys? Awesome. So if you notice, one of the things that Curtis is really, really good at is he gets people in and out like clockwork, right? He's like, boom, boom, boom. You turn around, you're like, bro, how are you doing? He's like, I've got 2 homemakers, and I just finished writing up a galley. Where are you at? And you're like, bro, what? It's pretty insane, right? One of the big things, too, is that whenever you're working with him, you need to be on your A game. And here's the thing, guys. If your display is messy, if stuff is everywhere, I'm not telling you that you're not going to sell, because the thing is, you still will sell. It just might take you a little bit longer to do it because you're having to handle objections, handle the fact that your display isn't clean, makes your product look high-end. The more high-end your product looks, the less going to be like, oh, wow, I didn't expect it to be that much. Now, how many of you have had when customers come up to your booth and they go, wow, this looks very expensive? That's a compliment. You're like, hell yeah, right? Because you know your display is congruent to like the pricing of our products, right? So one thing that I want to have you guys write this down is messy display equals messy decisions. Messy display equals messy decisions. And after that, messy decisions are not quick decisions. Right? Messy display equals messy decisions, and messy decisions are not quick decisions, right? So the more you display to your customers that your product is expensive, the easier it'll be to jump over hurdles they give you. There will be less sticker shocks. There will be less, oh, I thought it would be cheaper. Why? Because basically the way you're displaying your products, it'll help you sell faster, better, more efficiently, and if you do it correctly. Also, I mean, who's ever heard this? Cheap things aren't good, good things aren't cheap. Yeah, right? So we want to make sure that our displays look very good. This was actually a Pinterest expo that we worked. One of the things that we do whenever we set up corner booths is we actually put the ultimate set like right there, just because all the ladies are like, oh my gosh, that's pretty, like, oh my gosh. And you're like, totally. It's like, have you ever heard of Cutco? Or are you familiar with it? But notice that display is set up so that they go right up to the knives, and then they lead in either this way or right there, right into where we want them, right? The flatware is set up right there as well, so it's eye-catching. People like shiny stuff, so it literally pulls them right there, right? So, and one of the things that we do, it's not on this picture, but we'll put a happy customer list right here, because if they already own Cutco, where do we want to take them to from the homemaker? Ultimate set, right? We want to do an ultimate upgrade. So your setup has to be congruent to the ways that where you want to take your customer, right? So one of the things too that I want to recommend, guys, is be sure to group your paperwork together on like the back table. So like all your order forms, all that stuff, make sure it's on the back table or out of sight, right? Here's the reason why. So the reason why you want to keep that stuff on the back table is so that whenever you're working with customers and things are going like this, who's ever had it where like you can't even think about what's going on? You're just like Josh said, clipboard, 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 right? You don't even have to think about it. You're like, okay, let me grab an order form, boom, there you go, right? But it's always in the same spot. So also make sure that all the stuff is very clean, very tidy, and clean it as you go as well. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about too is the clipboard with the order forms. The reason why you want to make sure that you keep it in the back table or hidden is that if you keep your clipboard up here, you guys, you're subconsciously letting your customer know that it's all about sales at the Cutco booth, right? It's not about service, or it might be about service, but like subconsciously all they think about, oh, they're just taking orders for Cutco. And that might push away some customers, right? So it's a lot of little subconscious things with your clients. Now, one of the cool things, look at this. This display is dope. So this was like a horse expo or a cowboy expo. If you really look back there on the cooler, it says Gaines. It's Matt Graves and TC. What I like about this, it really makes Cutco look super high-end and super nice. So I actually see the future of Cutco like displays where we're going to be doing more like a furniture type setup like this, where it's like wood. You can see the Cutco logo displayed very elegantly, very nicely. It also makes the display look really, really nice. So one of the things that I also want to ask you guys is just, if you're working a big event, I want to challenge you guys, like, this is tough for me to say to you guys, but whatever. So what I want to challenge you guys is this, you know, do you make your bed every single morning? Or do you just leave, right? Or, you know, is there just stuff laid out everywhere? Or are your dishes clean, or are they in the dishwasher, or are they just kind of piling up? Who has ever heard of how you do anything is how you do everything? Guess what, guys? That stuff, that little stuff, even though you might not realize it, it'll actually come into your display at work, right? Because I've worked with people where I'm like, you know, they're using my display for whatever reason because a customer came up to that side and they started working with them, and then I have to go to their display, and there's like potato skins all over the cheese knife. And I'm like, bro, that sucks. And then that customer's like, oh, your knife is really dirty. And I'm like, oh, you don't say, you know? But it's tough to jump over that, right? Because now the first impression that they had was, oh, this stuff is like, you know, dirty. You just cut stuff, right? So one of the things that I would write down, you guys, is clean as you go. Clean as you go at all times. Bless you. If you get leather shavings on your boards, make sure that you're blowing them off constantly, right? Also, be respectful of not only your Cutco, but also be respectful and mindful to the people working with you. So, and what I mean by that, you guys, is the moment that you, like, if you really take ownership and respect your display, you are actually telling the people around you to subconsciously, like, yo, you need to level up and make sure that your display looks good too. Now, if you you don't care or whatever, you're unconsciously allowing those people as well to just have a like okay mediocre setup, right? So don't do that. So a big thing with that is I just want to encourage you that if you're working a big event or anything to which you have a potential of producing huge numbers, you take the personal time to just really nail down those areas and really get good at them. So now I want to talk a little bit about cutting less and selling more. So what we have found in our division is that really you don't need to cut a whole bunch of stuff to get the point across to people. You've heard it time and time again, all you need is what? Potatoes, right? And now we're getting to a point where we don't even need potatoes. Because what is the one thing or two things that people remember the most? The penny and the leather, right? So what I'm trying to say, you guys, is, you know, limit yourself to potatoes and really, really get good with your approaches, because that just means less stuff everywhere. And if there's food up here, guess what kind of customers it attracts to the booth? Riffraff, right? They're like, yeah, cut stuff. And you're like, no, bro, you want to cut stuff? You know, and if they're like, no, well, yeah, we saw the food. And I was like, oh, okay. So what we do is we just keep the potatoes on the floor, and then we keep the pennies and leather underneath here. That's why these are freaking fire. So also, one of the things that I want to talk about is check these displays. So this is actually Curtis's display for his stock show. As you can see, very clean, looks very nice, looks very, very elegant. You can see the homemaker is, the ultimate set is facing so that the client has to go right there in the middle. One thing that he did for this show, which I thought was pretty sick, if you don't have like a full flatware chest, look what he did with those flatware pieces in the back. Can't really see it, so what he did basically is he got like these pieces here and hung them up here instead. So they look like they're elevated. Yeah, it looks like they're floating, you got it.
Where are they?
Back to the left.
Are they on the chest set floating?
They're like right here, so you know where the steak table knives go? Yep, you prop them up. Can you guys see that? So what I'm trying to get here, guys, is that we're consistently making and working on doing our displays better. Because the more we can do that, you know, the more we can elevate as a company, the more CPO we produce. It was Jay Brad that said earlier that we're like a whole, it all flows, right? It's all one big thing, right? So I just encourage you to really see if you can find ways to elevate your display and see how you can share that with the people around you as well. And so this is one of the other pictures. You can see it from both sides, both angles. What I like is that he got that backdrop and he elevated it so that it's way up. It actually increases visibility as well. So one thing that I want to have you guys write down is, write this down: signage, signage, signage. First, it's location, location, location. We all know that. We've heard that time and time again. Second, after that, it's signage, signage, signage. The more signage you have, the better. So, and one of the things that I want to go over with you guys too is also have things more eye-catching. So like things at different levels. For instance, we raced the Ultimate set because we want this to catch people's eyes, draw them into the booth. We have this here. And if, by the way, if you're not doing this with your flower chests, you totally need to be doing this. Forgot who came up with it, but was it Luke? TC, woo! Thank you, TC, if you're in here. But yeah, I highly recommend that you do that. So can everybody see these pictures? Kind of? Cool. So I want to have you guys take some action, right? Because I believe, a lot of people I've seen have come up to the booth and taken pictures of the booth. I really don't think we have enough pictures of like displays all around the nation for people to kind of go back and look at. I remember when I was like newer in Cutco and the Cutco Events app came out, I was always going through there looking for displays, looking for better ways to display my product, right? So Dave Bush actually allowed me to have like a little contest with you guys. So who has the Cutco Events app on their phone? Okay, cool. So here's the thing. The first 3 people, right, that get to upload pictures of their display, and you can do this right now, get your phones out. So you either are going to win a 2x6 wellness mat for free, an outdoor knife roll-up for free, or one of the DPZ signs from out there for free. So I highly recommend get your phone out because I know Dave and I are going to be looking at that. And by the way, who would be excited if you got like one of these chests, not without the flatware or anything, but just like brand spanking new for free? That would be sick, right? So make sure you all upload a picture because we're going to put a drawing for that. That's going to be like the big thing. So whoever wins that drawing is going to get a brand new one. So, and Dave Bush said, hell yeah. So I was like, sweet. So does anybody have any questions on like displays and stuff like that? Can I do questions? No questions? Okay, cool. Later. Thank you. Oh, the Cutco Events app. So, yeah, go to the Cutco Events app. Go to the pictures, event pics. Let's see. Yeah, at the top right, there's like a camera button, or actually click on the event pics, and then at the top right, there'll be like a camera. It'll say take photo or choose photo. I think it'll be really funny if you take a photo of this booth. Just upload any pictures of displays that you guys have. Cool? Sweet. Thank you. Yeah.
Nice round of applause for Roger. Well done.